So Frank, that was a fun trip to Pennsylvania, other than the lightning and the rain and sometimes the strange work phone calls that we get. You know, we're getting ready to interview the coaches before the Sodexo Cup game, and Frank starts getting phone calls about rabid foxes, and I'm like, that's a new one.
Glad you're entertained. Again, this is why I tell people don't go into politics in your mid to late 40s, because you're going to learn to hate it real fast. You know, rabid foxes, and telling people to avoid them, and then getting 395 comments on a post from people from all kinds of locations other than my village, calling me an idiot and everything else. Yeah. So for those of you that
Sounds
think
fun.
that you're, yeah, for those that think that you're throwing me a bunch of shade, and I have, you know, thin skin on social media about this show and about other people's shows and everything else. You're dealing with a licensed professional now, folks. So you got to up your game a little bit with how you insult me, because it's really not, you're really not getting there. You're really not doing it justice. I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, this is week 1, right?
Yeah,
of what?
Of season 18 of In the Huddle. All kidding aside, we did have a great 3 days, or 3-day stretch at least. You and me, 2 days together. Saturday, obviously, me at Cortland in the Grove City situation there. A little bit of rain, but it subsided for a nice, clear second half for the most part. But JB, you know, there was a lot of quality national games that went on, some which were routes until the very end. There's a couple I can think of, like River Falls Alma, and also Mount Union and Wheaton in that also. But I mean, what was your 30,000 foot view, as we've always started out our Crunchtime shows, with this week 1 and how it played out?
Well, a couple of power conferences like the WIAC, the ASC went undefeated, so they made a good opening statement. The Empire 8 made a pretty strong opening statement, beating teams from the Liberty League and the PAC. We saw Johns Hopkins look really good. They certainly look like the number 3 or 2 team in the country, depending on which ballot you're looking at. And then we also saw some big statistical days from teams that we didn't expect, like Utica and the Coast Guard. And, you know, well, I guess you expected a big statistical day from Caleb Blaha and the Falcons of, you know, River Falls. But there were a few surprises there in week 1, and our Thursday night game wasn't the only one that got affected by weather. More on that and what happened in New Jersey a little bit.
Yeah, we're still not really sure what to call that yet. We have not heard back from the NCAA as of this recording, so we don't know what to tell you besides the game is suspended, and they think it's a tie, even though the score didn't reach 17-17 in that game. So let's just talk about all this action that we had here in week 1, JB. This is crunch time for week 1 of the 2025 college football season. And we're going to start crunch time. This season, we're actually going to hit every region. We're not combining any of those regions. So here we go with Region 1. We'll start with Springfield College at Western New England for the pinch and saw. Second quarter, 3:26 left. Western New England's Matt LaMontagne gets a 6-yard touchdown run for a 10-7 lead for Western New England. But Springfield answers with 41 seconds left in the first half. TJ Welch, 14-yard run, makes it 14-10 Springfield at halftime. We'll go to the third quarter, 3:41 left, and it's Western New England's Kevin Acosta Jr. getting a 25-yard touchdown pass from Brady Lafferty to make it 16-14 Western New England. The conversion failed. Fourth quarter, though, Springfield, Cam Pedro, a 26-yard touchdown run, gives the Pride the lead. They go for two and get it. 22-16 is the lead at that point. But look at this drive from Western New England to end the game with less than 2 minutes left. They're at 4th and 10 from their own 35, and here's a holding penalty against Springfield. First down for Western New England. We'll go to the next couple of plays, 2nd and 17, and Brady Lafferty complete for 19 yards to DeAndre Harris. They get across midfield that way. Then they face a 3rd and 10. Lafferty complete to John DeCamps at the 33-yard line of Springfield. 2nd and 10 from the 33. Lafferty again complete. DeAndre Harris for 10 yards to the 26-yard line, make that the 23-yard line. Then they're facing a 4th and 1 from the 14, and it is a 1-yard gain by LaMontagne. A spike ensues. 2nd down and 10 from the 13-yard line.
Lafferty, snap, looking for Delgado on the wheel, makes a man miss. Delgado for the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Golden Bears!
And Brady Lafferty is complete for the touchdown. Christian Delgado gets that touchdown, and
kick on the way. It is good! Golden Bears take the lead. 5 seconds to go.
TJ Welch for Springfield, 119 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown, but Brady Lafferty for Western New England, 17 for 33, 180 yards, many of them in that last drive, 2 passing touchdowns, including 13 yards to Christian Delgado with 5 seconds remaining. It's the first ever win over a ranked opponent for Western New England. We continue in Region 1 and the CNE technically as Coast Guard takes on University of New England. It was 28-14 Coast Guard late in the second quarter. Then with 1:16 left in that second quarter, it's UNE's Damian Jones with a 49-yard touchdown run to make it 28-21 in favor of Coast Guard. At halftime, though, would be 31-21 Coast Guard. Midway through the third quarter, Harrison Hensley makes it a 57-yard touchdown run for the Coast Guard Bears. 38-28 is the lead at that point for Coast Guard. The teams would trade scores, UNE with a touchdown and Coast Guard with a field goal. With 9:08 left fourth quarter, Nathan Delgado gets a 1-yard touchdown run for UNE to make it 42-41 in favor of UNE. Coast Guard responds less than a minute later. Harrison Hensley has 26-yard touchdown run, 49-42. My goodness, they're breaking the scoreboard in this game. 4 minutes later, it was UNE's Gavin Anderson, 8-yard touchdown pass from Chris Lang, tying the game at 49 apiece. Yes, we are going to overtime. Let's go to UNE's portion of overtime here. Here's 3rd and 6 from the 21-yard line, and Chris Lang is complete to Berto Zepeda at the 7-yard line. He'll extend it all the way for a 21-yard touchdown to make it 56-49, UNE leading. On the other side of overtime, here is Sean Burns being intercepted by Tegan Jeremy, and that would do it. UNE wins in overtime, 56-49. Harrison Henley from Coast Guard, 30 rushes, 324 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. Damian Jones for UNE, though, 282 all-purpose yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and John Germano, game-winning touchdown catch in overtime. That's it for Region 1's video focus. But JB, we've got some other games on our featured list here that you might want to talk about, and some other games as well.
Okay, Frank, let's go through the scoreboard. Pretty nice new look at the scoreboard for season 18 there, Mr. Mayor. And we'll tell you a little more about that later, but Curry needed every one of Monty Quinn's 171 rushing yards to put away Bridgewater State. The Bears gave them a tough fight on Friday night. Also on Friday night was the Chowda Bowl, I should say, with the Mass Maritime Bucks coming up a little short. The Privateers from SUNY Maritime win it 24-14. We already talked about the UNE game. Del Val What's going on here? We got Hamden Sydney winning 38-9. This was one of Frank's sleepers picks for Region 3. Mr. Mayor, looks like you were onto something there. They outgained Del Val 441 yards to 270. Wow. Big game for Mason Cunningham with 4 receptions, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the linebacker Jeremiah Clark from Del Val had 15 total tackles. Salve, they must have that JB Riz from my visit to Newport, Frank. 34-13 over the defending NESCAC champs. An impressive debut for Salve. It looks like their new quarterback, Thomas Fallon, is pretty good. 18-32, 258 yards, and 3 passing touchdowns in that one. We covered the pinch and saw game elsewhere in Region 1, a couple scores that jump out. I'd say Merchant Marine winning 29-15 on Friday night. We also saw Fitchburg win pretty big over Dean. Same thing with Ursinus over Alvernia. MIT puts up 46 points. Husson with an impressive win over Framingham State. Looks like my Anna Maria sleeper pick might be a little shaky there, Frank, with a 46-7 loss to Eastern in week 1. But hey, welcome to the party, New England College. They came up a little short, 49-21 against Plymouth State, but it's good to have a new D3 school out there. Endicott only beating Misericordia 31-21 is a little bit of a head scratcher to me, Frank. They host Muhlenberg this weekend. More on that in a little bit. Wrapping up, St. John Fisher, Castleton, Widener, and RPI all win in the late games in Region 1.
Let's move it to Region 2 as Moravian took on Muhlenberg for the Sodexo Cup. 37 seconds into the game, Jake Souse gets a 26-yard interception and returns it to the house. Souse to the house, 7-0 is the lead for Muhlenberg. Then watch Jared Jenkins get intercepted here by Aaron Sylvester just a little bit later in this first quarter. Returns it 17 yards to the Muhlenberg 43-yard line. And then, this is not a replay, Aaron Sylvester again, this time a 25-yard return to the Moravian 15-yard line that led to a field goal for Muhlenberg. So 3 interceptions in the first quarter by Muhlenberg's defense. 1:45 left first quarter though. Moravian tries to answer Cameron Tinajero. The 6-yard touchdown pass from Jared Jenkins, 10-7. Muhlenberg led. Second quarter, 10:38 left. Caleb Pisals, a 10-yard touchdown pass from Dante Mahaffey, made a bigger lead for Muhlenberg at that point, 17-7. 7.5 minutes left second quarter. Avery Kozer, 31-yard touchdown pass from Jared Jenkins. They keep trying here to come back in this game. 17-13, Moravian trails, and that would be the halftime score. But this touchdown here pretty much sunk Moravian, it felt like. A minute and a half into the third quarter, Dante Mahaffey, a 19-yard touchdown run, 24-13 in favor of Muhlenberg. It would be 38-19 in the final. Jenkins, 23 for 34, 238 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, but 3 interceptions were the bugaboo ultimately, though, in that first quarter. Dante Mahaffey, 189 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and Jake Souse, the pick 6 that I talked about earlier. The game I attended, Cortland hosting Grove City. In the first quarter, 9:49 left. It's Mike Resigno getting a 5-yard touchdown run. It was only a 4-play drive, taking about 81 yards for that 7-0 score. It looked like Cortland was going to roll until second quarter, 10:51 left. Breck Peacock, a Wheaton transfer that went to Grove City now, 13-yard touchdown pass from Sutton Ellis, ties the game at 7 apiece. 3 minutes later, Ian DeMary, a 3-yard touchdown run. He's just a bowling ball out there for Grove City. 14-7 is the Wolverines' lead. Cortland would equalize before halftime. A $1:26 left, and here's Mike Resigno with a 1-yard touchdown run, 14 apiece. There would be a fumble to Cortland and the ensuing kickoff, but then the next play, they go to the end zone as Cortland, and it's intercepted by Noah Wheeler. Eventually, offsetting penalties would still give it to Grove City. That would pretty much take us to halftime. Third quarter, a minute and a half into it, Noah Wheeler. This time he gets an interception and does take it to the house. 21-14 in favor of the Wolverines, and you could feel momentum shifting for sure at that point. 3 minutes left, third quarter. Here's a big opportunity thwarted as Mike Resigno is intercepted by Ryan Montgomery on a 4th and 6 play at the Grove City 32-yard line. Really, they never were heard from again offensively. Cortland, it was 31-14. Grove City winning this big game. Resigno, 15 rushes, 62 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Grove City's defense, 6 interceptions and a fumble recovery, by the way, as well. 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and Ian DeMary, 24 rushes, 81 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Finally, in video games for the Region 2 pack here, it's William Patterson at Western Connecticut. 8:34 left in the first quarter. WestConn's Cam Holmes gets a 12-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0. Then halfway through the second quarter, WestConn again. Marcus Fawcett gets an 8-yard touchdown pass from Dylan Jackson to make it a 14-0 WestConn lead. William Patterson is heard from just before halftime. It's Nigel Jennings with a 4-yard touchdown run, making it 14-7 WestConn's lead at halftime. Third quarter, 3:41 left. It's a tie game because Nigel Jenkins finds the end zone again. 11-yard touchdown run, making it 14-14. Then a minute and a half into the fourth quarter, WestConn's Cam Holmes again. A 4-yard touchdown run gives WestConn the 21-14 lead back. 10 seconds left. William Patterson looks to equalize as Nigel Jennings, his 3rd touchdown of the game. A 28-yard touchdown run makes it 21-20. Matt Davidson tries to tie the game.
The snap, the kick, it's blocked, 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 it's blocked.
But he's blocked by Kyle Jackson on the extra point. The onside kick would fail, and WestConn hangs on 21-20 against William Patterson. Nigel Jennings, 140 total yards, 3 rushing touchdowns and an interception. Dylan Jackson from WestConn, 24 for 39, 233 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Kyle Jackson with that blocked game-time PAT with 10 seconds left. JB, great action in Region 2, including that one. Yeah, absolutely. William Patterson deserves credit for getting that close in that game after several problematic games through over the last few seasons. So we may be hearing from them later on this season. Not quite there for the win column there. But let's talk about some other featured games in Region 2 and other games beyond that.
Well, they finally got to a conclusion of the Mayor's Cup game that we tried to cover on Thursday night. It was canceled, as everybody knows. It resumed in the second quarter on Saturday. Looks like Jalen Mims for Kings took over as quarterback for the rest of the game. Passed for 241 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also had a couple of picks. Cooper King, ironically, for Wilkes, not Kings, with 171 total yards, a couple of touchdowns. And our guy, Nick Volpone, we met at the Landmark Media Day, kicks a game-winning 38-yard field goal to give Wilkes the Mayor's Cup yet again. What a great finish that was. Elsewhere, Utica, wow. Taking it to the co-champs of the pack, Washington Jefferson, 49-31. The teams combined for over 1,000 total yards. And even though the president's John Peduzzi had over 100 receiving yards and a couple touchdowns, the real story in this one, Frank, was the new QB of Utica, Tyler Sazowski. Easy for me to say. 28 for 40, 528 yards. It's a record for Utica. 4 passing touchdowns, impressive performance. We talked about Hopkins' impressive dominance over Ithaca, 42-14. Not much to report there. Bay Harvey was almost perfect. Had a couple of touchdowns. The defense for the Blue Jays smothering 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. Elsewhere in Region 2, Brockport, we've talked about on Thursday night, as well as the Marietta game. Teal comes up short to Concordia. My Hobart Statesman let me down on Friday, Frank. Alfred finally beating them for the first time in almost 30 years. It's a tough pill for Statesman fans to swallow, but so it goes. Catholic wins on a game-winning field goal. We had St. Lawrence take the Hoffman Cup over Norwich. Juniata, look at them. They came back and they won 31-30 against Gettysburg. A really heck of an effort there. Rochester wins going away. Same thing with Sewanee. Elsewhere in the NJAC, Kane edges Morrisville 17-14. We saw Hartwick win big over Maine Maritime, who's back, new program. Susquehanna without Rashawn Lamons. Our friend Pat Coleman was out there. That one, we saw the Riverhawks win 33-14. Good performance for Union. They didn't get blown out in this one. Looks like could be a team on the rise. We'll see what happens there. TCNJ narrowly escapes a close one, 27-24. Christopher Newport soundly beats Trine, who's doing a long trip from Michigan down to Virginia. St. Vincent beats Hilbert. We had John Carroll's Nick Simptonfelter set an NCAA record with a nearly perfect game, 95.5% passing efficiency in a 48-14 win over Waynesburg. Allegheny comes up short against Denison, 24-35, and we had the suspended game, Rowan and CRW, Case Western Reserve. The score was 17-14 at the time that they called it, but now it's a tie. I don't think Coach Rulli and the profs love that one.
Yeah, I don't think Ruling Company necessarily wanted to take a tie in a game they were leading, but we'll see how this all plays out. As I said, we're awaiting the NCAA's interpretation for NPI purposes as to what this all means. Let's go to Region 3. Only one game we're going to show you video on, and that's Bethel at UMHB. That's Bethel, Tennessee, I should say. 3 minutes into this first quarter, Brylan Jordan gets a 45-yard pick six for Bethel. And boy, that escalated quickly there, 7-0 in favor of Bethel. Then second quarter, 12-13 left, Micah Jones, a 31-yard touchdown pass from former D3 player Destin Chance, 13-0. Well, make it 13-2 because the extra point was blocked for a defensive two-point conversion brought in by Joey Johnson, 13-2 at that point. 3 minutes later, it's the Crews. Kirkland Michaud, the new quarterback, starting for them, 10-yard touchdown run, making it 13-9. Then a minute 20 later, a fumble recovery, scoop and score. Teron Brown, a 56-yard score there, makes it 16-13. So Mary Hardin Baylor takes their first lead midway through the second quarter. 5 minutes later, though, Destin Chance gets the lead back for Bethel with a 3-yard touchdown run to make it 20-16. We'd go to the third quarter. 18 seconds into it, Cameron Ferguson, a 70-yard rumble to the house for Mary Hardin Baylor, makes it 23-20 in favor of the Crew. Then 5 minutes later, it's B.J. Stewart getting a 70-yard touchdown pass from Kirkland Michaud, 30-20, Crew leading. Bethel hit a field goal with 2:49 left and forced a punt with 1:38 left, but here's how things ended pretty much as Destin Chance is intercepted by Dion Drinkard at the 31-yard line, and that would do it. Mary Hardin Baylor survives this game against non-D3 Bethel, Tennessee, 30-23. Chance, 21 for 37, 227 yards, one passing touchdown, one rushing touchdown, and an interception. Cameron Ferguson for UMHB, 16 rushes, 148 yards, and one rushing touchdown, which was basically half of those rushing yards, JB. But great job by UMHB to come back in that game. We'll talk a little bit more about that after crunch time. Let's talk about 3 other featured games and the rest of the slate.
Well, we told you on Friday about the Trinity win, so I'm going to skip past that. Randolph-Macon wins 48-34 in a kind of a shootout game. The thing that stands out to me, Frank, Dante Casicola, 12 or 16, didn't have to pass much. Looks like they ran the ball a decent amount of time, 300 yards. So, yeah, they did pretty well. Barry, speaking of rushing, had 41 rushing attempts compared to 14 passes using 13 different ball carriers. I believe Coach K's son even had a kickoff return for a touchdown in this one. Barry wins by 30 points. Very strong first week for the Vikings. Impressive win. Elsewhere in Region 3, Howard Payne beats Pacific on Friday night, I believe, or maybe that was Thursday. We had Bellhaven Millsaps, another Thursday game. Good interview by Pat Coleman with their quarterback, Brent Morris, you should check out on YouTube. Once again, we're not a YouTube show, just for all the people out there trying to follow this. We're Facebook and X, that's it. Maryville appears to be pretty good shape, 40-14 over a good Hendricks team. Southwestern beating McMurray 27-19 sort of jumps out at me, Frank, as well as Center beating Hanover. That's a good SAA HCAC cross-conference matchup. And then one of the games we thought was going to be competitive turned out to be a 3-possession win by Salisbury, 42-21. And I think that's about it for Region 3.
So say it with me, Dante Casiola. Casiola.
Dante Casiola.
You got
Casiola.
it. You got it.
Okay.
Let's go to Region 4, and we're going to start with Wheaton against number 2, Mount Union. Midway through the first quarter, it's Jacob Cockrell getting a 17-yard touchdown pass from Mikey Maloney, 13-0, as the new starter from Mount Union was making some noise out there, Mikey Maloney. About a minute and a half later, Matt Kreider, though, gets a 10-yard touchdown run to make it 13-7. Mount Union's lead still, but Wheaton on the board now. 4 minutes later, Mount Union responds. Sean Thomas, 42 yards from Maloney, makes it 20-7 in favor of Mount Union. 11 minutes left, second quarter. Jacob Cockrell again, this time 81 yards from Mikey Maloney. I should talk slowly here to make sure that Jacob Cockrell can get to the end zone before I stop talking about the 27-7 score in favor of Mount Union. We'll go third quarter, 7:35 left. Nick Turner, 1-yard touchdown pass from Maloney makes it 37-7 in favor of Mount Union. Wheaton would get 2 touchdowns in the fourth to make it 37-21. And then look at this, onside kick recovery by Wheaton. So they get the ball back, down by 2 possessions, 2:40 left. It's Seth Kortenhoven with a 15-yard touchdown pass from Mark Percucci to make it 37-29. Wheaton decides, so with 2:40 left, to kick it deep. And ultimately, Mikey Maloney, he completes it for a first down on 3rd and 4 at the Wheaton 42-yard line is where they started, but fumbled, recovered by Mount Union. That was a little too close for comfort in that situation, as Mount Union does hold on in this game, 37-29. Mount leading 34-7 at the end of the third quarter. For Cucci, 305 total yards, 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdown and interception for Wheaton. And then for Mount Union, Mikey Maloney, 19 for 24, 307 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Also in Region 4, Adrian at Valpo. Adrian got a field goal with 41 seconds left in the first half, 3-0, and we'd stay that way for almost 30 minutes. Here's fourth quarter, 1:25 left. Dewan McNeely from Valpo, a 3-yard touchdown run makes it 7-3 Valpo. Oh my goodness, they lose the lead 58 minutes and 35 seconds into the game. Adrian would respond. Let's look at this drive. Noah Boudry complete to Trey Brueggemann for a 7-yard completion to the 24-yard line. Then he finds another completion, this time Ethan Aberger. That's 30 yards to the Valpo 46, first down. Then Boudry again. No huddle on this. He's just flinging it, and he gets it complete to the Valpo 35-yard line. Braden Whitaker this time. Then he throws it to the left side to Ethan Aberger for 26 yards and the touchdown. My goodness, a quick response there by Boudry and Adrian. It's at that point 10-7. Here though, Rowan Keefe trying to get the response for Valpo. He's intercepted by Ethan Burrows, and that would do it. Adrian wins this game against an FCS opponent, 10-7. Rowan Keefe from Valpo, 15 for 19, 153 yards, 3 interceptions. Noah Boudry from Adrian, 16 for 23, 183 yards, and the game-winning touchdown pass with 26 seconds remaining in the game. JB, that's a gritty performance by the former Mount Union quarterback, Noah Boudry. And we have one more feature game and some other scores here in Region 4.
Yeah, well, Baldwin Wallace was a team that we're keeping an eye on in the OAC as a potential sleeper or maybe a runner-up to Mount Union. I mean, I watched the Mount Union game, and it was not close for the first 2-3 quarters. Michael Maloney was very impressive in his debut, but so was Cockrell, who this receiver that is probably a 4.3 40-yard dash runner. The guy just ran by everybody. No one could catch him. Not a big guy, but a fast one. And so Mount Union is going to be a tough team to beat because of that combo right there, among others, on the Purple Raider roster. But going back to Baldwin Wallace, they win 31-13 over Wittenberg out of the NCAC. And then elsewhere, you can kind of see a mixture. No real surprises. Maybe Calvin putting up 88 points on poor Oberlin might be something that catches your eye. And Ohio Wesleyan putting up 65. There were some high scores, but there were some low scores with Anderson just beating Alfred State by 1. And you had a 7-point game between Westminster and Manchester. Franklin beats Ohio Northern. I think that you get the rest of the point there. Bluffton with a close win over Kenyon, and DePauw 40-0 over Rose-Hulman. Pretty impressive there. Let's
move over to Region 5 at this point. We're going to start with Augustana at Simpson. It was a back and forth game led by Simpson 23-17 after 3 periods. We take it up at fourth quarter, 13:26 left, and it's Mikey Brosnan, a 50-yard touchdown pass from Jimmy McHugh to make it 24-23 in favor of Augustana. Then Simpson responds, 13-12 left, a 98-yard kickoff return by MJ Burks gives the lead back to Simpson, 29-24. Give them some time to reach the end zone, folks, before I say that in 3 minutes, Jimmy McHugh gets a 1-yard touchdown run from Augustana. 32-29, Augustana leading. Back and forth we go. Simpson, this time Demerico Young gets a 20-yard touchdown run for his team. Simpson leading 35-32 as the conversion is no good. Augustana responds with 2 seconds left. Jacob Garbett gets a 36-yard field goal to tie the game at 35 apiece. And guess what? We're going to overtime. Augustana answers first. Sean Schlanzer, a 7-yard touchdown pass from Jimmy McHugh, makes it 42-35, Augustana leading. Simpson responds. Noah Craycraft, a 3-yard touchdown pass from Jaden Thorson. They decide to go for 2 at home, and the pass attempt is no good. Simpson can't get it done at home. Augustana wins on the road, 42-41 in overtime. Cole Staska from Simpson, 7 catches, 139 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Jimmy McHugh from Augustana, it's 394 total yards, 4 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. Wow, and an interception there. Claremont Mud Scripps versus Lake Forest in Arizona, the first Arizona game in D3 history. Scoreless after 3 quarters were we in that game, and so then 7 seconds into the fourth quarter, it was CMS's Ben Kim getting a 21-yard touchdown pass from Robert Litcher to make it 7-0 CMS. Next Stags drive, they had a 4th and 4 play in Lake Forest territory to the 36-yard line, complete for the first down. That was a risky play of sorts in no man's land, but they retained possession, and eventually with 8:03 left, it's James Ryan getting a 17-yard touchdown pass from Litcher, 14-0 CMS. Lake Forest tries to respond, but with only 7 seconds left, Mason Wright gets a 3-yard pass from Richard Stallworth, 14-7, and you'll see, though, that the ensuing onside kick falls the way of Claremont Mud Scripps, and that would do it. 14-7, CMS wins in Arizona. Richard Stallworth for LFC, 9 for 24, 110 yards and 1 passing touchdown. Robert Litcher, 9 for 14, 105 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. That's pretty much it in Region 5 for video games. Let's go to the other featured games and other games with JB.
Yeah, so maybe no more turbo offense in Wartburg, but they still play good defense out there in Iowa. So the Knights win 21-7 over preseason favorite from the Midwestern Conference, Monmouth. We saw Wabash, this guy, Brand Campbell, look at that, 15-20, 305 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. They're going to have a say in some of these NCAC games, I think, later on in the year. Elsewhere, so you remember Frank and I saying that upset that Aurora could pull off? Well, didn't quite pan out that way. Platteville with an empathetic 41-0 just beating of the Spartans, who was held to 1 rush yard. Oof, tough night. I mean, 4 interceptions. Their QB Tyler Adkins had a rough night. He did throw for 320 yards, but a rough one. On the flip side, we saw Zachary Bothune with 173 rushing yards and 3 rushing TDs. Elsewhere in Region 5, we already talked about the Thursday night games. We saw a close one between Concordia and Minnesota Morris, decided by a single point. Carnegie Mellon blank Chicago. We saw Rockford squeak by Beloit. We also saw McAllister beat Grinnell by 5. Hope, holy smokes, that game was not close, 62-0 over Loras. Central beats Illinois Wesleyan 27-18. We saw Knox narrowly just get edged by Eureka 14-7. North Park beats Ripon 35-9. Teen, and then Carthage puts up 51 over Lakeland's 40. I think that pretty much sums it up. WashU, big win. Nebraska Wesleyan played a non-Division III team in Dakota State.
You know, in the third division server, we actually encounter a player from Concordia, Chicago, who had that 1-point win that you brought up, the punter, Dennis Vanderplau, and he is somebody that I've told I want to see a punter lower the boom this season, you know, get one of those Pac McAfee type tackles. So we'll see if Dennis can deliver for us at some point later on this season. I don't believe he had one of those in his game this past weekend. Region 6, let's go. We got 3 games on video that we're going to get to. Alma at River Falls, 5:58 left first quarter. Eddie Williams, a 23-yard touchdown run, makes it 7-6 as Alma's still trailing in that game. It was 7-0 before that. Second quarter, 12:29 left. River Falls, Steven Riefenberger, 15-yard touchdown pass from Caleb Blaha, 14-6, River Falls. Second quarter, 57 seconds left. It's River Falls again. Austin Rush, a 9-yard touchdown pass from Blaha, 24-6. They just keep expanding that lead. It felt like 11:26 left third quarter. Austin Rush again from Blaha, 57-yard touchdown pass, 31-6. Alma would answer fourth quarter, 7:42. It's Jacob Clayton, a 36-yard punt return for a touchdown. Made it 45-33, so they definitely did narrow that gap. But you'll see here, with a chance left with 4:30 on the clock, you'll see here that Alma needing a yard, they'd fumble it and wouldn't be able to get that yard. And so they turned the ball back over to River Falls and couldn't get any closer. 45-33, River Falls beats Alma. Carter St. John, 22 for 42, 242 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Caleb Blaha, 484 total yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Then it's Oshkosh at Linfield. 44 seconds left, first quarter. Clayton Schwabe, a 1-yard touchdown run, makes it 10-0 Oshkosh on the road in Linfield land. Second quarter, 11:21 left. Caleb Woodcock gets a 1-yard touchdown pass from Luke McNabb to make it 10-7. Linfield trying to close the gap. Second quarter, though, still 14 seconds left in the half. Kellen Mella, a 4-yard touchdown pass from Quentin Keene, makes it 21-7. Oshkosh expanding that lead. Third quarter, 5:01 left. Oshkosh, Clayton Schwabe again, 48 yards from Quentin Keene, 28-7. Oshkosh running away with it at that point. Very late, it was 28-14. River Lean, you'll see fumbling the ball and ultimately be recovered by Oshkosh's Jax Radicek. I love the name. And nonetheless, that would pretty much do it as Oshkosh beats Linfield 31-14. McNabb, 14 for 29, 128 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, but 1 interception for Linfield. And place kicker Axel Vero Trejo from Oshkosh, 3 for 3 field goal day for him. And Quentin Keene from Oshkosh, 17 for 26, 285 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Finally, in terms of video package, it's Hardin Simmons at Chapman. A minute 56 left first quarter. Chris Sims, a 76-yard touchdown pass from Kyle Brown, makes it 7-0 Cowboys. But Chapman responds. 9:05 left second quarter. Brendan Manzano, a 5-yard touchdown pass from Tyler Pacheco, ties it at 7 apiece. 10-10 was the halftime score, but later it was 17-10 Hardin Simmons when Noah Garcia rumbles 76 yards to the house. He was a guest of ours in our preseason shows, and now he's a guest of Chapman's in their end zone. 24-10, Hardin Simmons leads. The teams traded touchdowns to end the third quarter. Here is a big play, though, as 4th and 17, a punt block is scored as a touchdown for Chapman. 31-23, Hardin Simmons leading, but Chapman within a possession at that point. 3:32 left fourth quarter. Kyle Brown says no more of this. He gets Wes Douglas for a 31-yard touchdown pass, a 37-23 lead. Chapman would score once more, but it was too little too late. 37-30, Hardin Simmons wins. Pacheco for Chapman, 220 total yards, 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdowns, and an interception. Noah Garcia, 23 rushes, 158 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Kyle Brown, 2 passing touchdowns. JB, you will tell us about a little bit more WIAC action and a whole bunch of other games here in Region 6.
Yeah, so as we spoke with Ethan Gallagher from the Warhawks a few weeks ago, they were focused on this Carleton team, and they pretty much did what we thought that they would. A pretty impressive performance. I mean, maybe the defensive coordinator might be a little upset that they allowed over 200 yards passing, but big game for Whitewater, especially for Tyler Vassy, who had that 91-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Their running back had 28.7 yards per carry. It's Brian Stanton. Big day for him. Touches the ball 7 times, gets 2 touchdowns, 200 plus yards. Impressive day for the Warhawks. Elsewhere in Region 6, we saw Eau Claire and Stout get some wins for the WIAC. It's part of that 7-0 weekend. We saw Hamline beat Crown. St. Olaf wins big. Stevens Point has a win over Albion. On the West Coast, we saw Pomona, Lewis and Clark, Whitworth, Cal-Lou all win their games, and then to kind of wrap things up. And after dark, we had Redlands narrowly beat George Fox 10-7. Concordia Moorhead took on a non-D3 team in Mayville State, won 17-6.
Thanks, JB, and that's it pretty much. So that is crunch time for week 1 of the 2025 Division III college football season. Okay, Mr. Knowledgeable about all things D3 football, that's you. Your MVPs are back this season, and we'll see in a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. And, I brought up his name very early in the Crunch Time package. That was Brady Lafferty, and he deserves some definite accolades for that big win against a Springfield team that went to the quarterfinals just a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, you could have easily gone with Caleb Blaha or Nick Semptenfelter. There were some great statistical performances, but for what Lafferty pulled off against a ranked team for the first time in the W&E program history, scored a winning touchdown pass, a couple seconds left. It's a big comeback play for him, and it sets up the Bears pretty nicely. We'll see how the rest of their season goes, but that win has to give them a lot of confidence, and so I wanted to give Brady my offensive MVP for week 1. And the special teams side, there were a number of kickers who had good games, but I wanted to shout out Axel Vera Trejo, number 1, because his name is cool, and number 2, the fact that WIAC, whatever we want to call it, games go, having a solid kicker is pretty important. And this freshman came out and nailed 3 field goals, hit some extra points, and on the road at Linfield. So that's an impressive thing, in my opinion, for a guy in his first game to do that. And then on defense, this Aaron Sylvester was the MVP of the Sodexo Cup. Maybe you could see it in the videos, maybe not, but the guy had a club on his left hand, in a cast, couldn't really catch the ball, and yet comes down with 2 interceptions. You got to give him the shout out for that. What a great safety for the Mules. And so he gets my defensive MVP for week 1.
I was partial to South to the House. I mean, that
South to the House is a great one. Yes, it was. Especially kind of started the game, gave Muhlenberg that extra boost of confidence. True.
Yeah, well,
but 2 is more than 1.
Yeah, well, if he does it again, we'll have to consider him for those purposes, just to be able to say South to the House again. Nonetheless, JB, let's look at how we did on this weekend. We picked a bunch of games, the games we attended, and also the top 25 games. And 17-3 to a 16-4.
Nicely done.
I've got a lead. I will be short-lived. We'll find out Friday who we picked, and then Saturday who's actually still standing at that point in that situation. JB, we broke some news on Sunday night about the NESCAC. A large group of parents, about 300 of them, over 300, technically signed off on letters, but no guarantee all of them will join a lawsuit. They're waiting to find out what the sanctions might be from the NESCAC. As of this recording, we have not heard specifically what those might be. The NESCAC athletic directors were supposed to be releasing them today on Tuesday, the day we are taping this, and we have not seen them or heard about them yet. But the roster limit is what is in play here. It used to be 75, then it was not any roster limit during the COVID 5-year scenario. Now it's 84 after they made the decision to go to playoffs. But it's still not enough to some people because they feel that it's discriminatory, that football is the only sport in the NESCAC with a roster limit situation. You haven't had a good opportunity to speak on this, and we're going to probably speak more to it with a potential guest on Friday to discuss it. But what are your thoughts as somebody who kind of comes from that blue-blooded NESCAC country a little bit in Connecticut? So yes, there you go. Enjoy the spotlight. But what are your views
Yes,
in
of
all
course.
seriousness? Yes, so what are your views?
Well, the Title IX implications aside, the one thing that really jumps out is when you look at football, it is a little more diverse than some of the other sports that the NESCAC teams play. And limiting those opportunities is definitely going to get on the radar, not only of parents, but of lawyers and others. So I think, this comes down to sort of equity, diversity, and inclusion to a certain extent. So I think there's a strong case to be made that they should not be treated unequally compared to some of the other sports that are out there. I know in reading some articles and some other stuff that the presidents are like, oh, well, we don't want more football players on campus. That's, I guess you can argue both sides of the thing there. But at the end of the day, if these NESCAC teams are going to compete in the playoffs, and with the money and resources that these schools have, the only thing that's stopping them from competing for national championships in football, and the NESCAC competes in national championships for pretty much every other sport you can think of, especially women's, the roster limit's going to be something that they have to look at very closely.
Yeah, you could argue Title IX both ways to a certain degree. You could say that basically this roster limit's there to protect resources. I ran into the Middlebury field hockey team. I think they had gotten done with Skidmore, and I was at Starbucks writing my story Sunday, and I was talking to somebody associated with the team, not going to name if it's a player, coach, or otherwise. And I asked them their thoughts. I said, I'm writing this article about this topic, and here's what's happening. And she was surprised to hear it. And she said to me, look, you can look at it two ways. One, the NESCAC is very well funded in terms of the schools for their sports as it is. So it's not necessarily a funding issue generally, but she did have a concern that football could eat up the entirety of resources in an athletics program in an NESCAC school. Not a horrible argument, I get that, but at the same time, when you're talking about equitable treatment of student athletes, that's where it goes off the rails. Now, if they were like the Division I settlement discussion of roster limits for all sports in Division I, then maybe that's equitable treatment as long as those limits are realistic for each sport. That's not what's happening in the NESCAC. It's one sport and nothing else. And that might be where this thing falls off the cliff for the NESCAC. And to have to sanction these schools and what those sanctions will be, that's going to be an interesting, problematic dilemma that's going to possibly lead to a lawsuit from these parents. And from my discussions, they are serious about getting this more public than even what we've gotten it out there, and to pursue the legal avenues if they don't find the solution they feel is amenable. Pat Coleman discussed on the ATN podcast the idea of getting it up to 100-ish players. Do you think that would do it? Do you think that would satisfy these schools or these parents, that that's enough at least to appease what's going on for the schools that don't want these roster limits at 84 at the very least?
Well, I think it would put it in line with a lot of other D3 schools and conferences. I mean, obviously the Mountain Unions and the Mary Hardin Baylors out there have 200-300 in certain cases. But when you look at this conference, I mean, Williams has a $3 billion plus endowment. The small, Hamilton, Middlebury, Wesleyan, these are all over $1 billion, $1.5 billion. Colby is over $1 billion. Trinity is just under $800 million. Bates is sitting around 400. Amherst isn't listed, but they're probably over $1 billion. So I would think that the resources thing isn't going to be a problem. There's probably plenty of money to go around from an athletic funding perspective. But 100 to 125 is probably where you need to be at to be truly competitive at a national level for this sport.
Yep, to have the depth you need for, you've lost a bunch of players at different positions for playoffs. You definitely need to consider that aspect of it because, you're down to 50 whatever man roster at that point. But again, your depth matters to withstand the injuries that are unavoidable every season in that situation. Let's also talk WIAC. You kind of were lukewarm as to some of the bottom teams and who they beat when you and I were talking about it. They did go 7-0, which is, you can't do any better than that. Lacrosse didn't play, so,
Nope.
There you go. But, is it a sign of anything with respect to the WIAC? We've seen this before, and they've crapped out on the playoffs, basically. Do you feel any differently right now about the WIAC this season at this point?
No, I think everything we saw this weekend is kind of to be expected. I don't think there's anything yet other than the Platteville demolishing of that was a surprise. But the 6 other games, I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I didn't see certain things with, like Whitewater, for instance, not really great passing. They didn't really have to against Carleton, but when they play teams like Lacrosse and they play teams, like River Falls with Blaha, they're going to need to be able to throw the ball. So you can only do so much with a running quarterback or a 2-quarterback system. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, I think they're off to a great start. We'll see what happens in week 2.
Wisconsin Whitewater is a team that I thought would research this year, so I'm happy overall to see what they put up there. UWO's treatment of Linfield I thought was pretty spectacular.
That was impressive, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they.
It didn't surprise me. I mean, obviously we picked I picked Linfield at least. You were right on picking Oshkosh.
Linfield was never there.
The outcome didn't surprise me.
Yeah, it just felt like they dominated from start to finish in that one. Going back to Whitewater, they're going to be playing Mary Hardin Baylor soon. Kirkland Michaud era, I should say, has begun. I've got to say mixed reviews on the team overall from this performance against Bethel. I do not believe this Bethel team is as good as last year's. I think that their quarterback, Destin Chance, I watched him lose to Lake Forest last year. He's a good D3 quarterback. I don't know if he's a D3 quarterback that's going to excel in the situation he's in as it is. He looked good at times in that game, no doubt. But I don't know if I'm learning much about who Mary Hardin Baylor is based on that game, just because they flipped a loss to a win from last year or this year against Bethel. I'm not sure I really feel any differently about them having seen that game and that result. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. I mean, for the most part, win's a win. At the same time, there are probably some things that the crew can clean up on. And, week 1 in general is always a little sloppy for the offense. Defense usually plays a little better. So they have some time, but not much because that Whitewater game is coming up soon.
Yeah, it is. I think they're already looking at it in Belton for sure a little bit. How can't you? I mean, it's tempting to always have that game squarely in your focus. Things coming up this week as we look at the rest of the country here. Mount Union, Grove City, interesting scenario. I think Grove City's offense has got to get back up a little bit more. 135 passing yards is not going to cut it against Mount Union. That defense, though, was special against Cortland. So Grove City maybe has a chance to at least keep the score low enough to make it a game. I don't know. It's at Grove City, a very special place to play for a home team there. So we'll see. Also, UWO at North Central. That, I think, could be a real big game because this is a case where North Central probably almost wishes they did have a game under their belts here before they go against a team like UWO who has big momentum right now. I mean, there's no way to avoid that fact. They have momentum. You can't not have momentum when you beat Linfield the way they did. And here they come. This could be actually an upset. What are the odds of it if you had to guess right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll just depend how good and established this new transfer quarterback is for NCC, and if there's any hiccups. I mean, there's a lot of new starting offensive linemen. I mean, it could be sort of like the Stag Bowl early on, where NCC's opponent scores first, and then they have to play a little catch up. It'll depend on, if guys like Coleman can break the game open, if the defense that needs to replace a lot of starters from last year kind of picks up where they left off, and or creates turnovers. Turnovers are always big. So we'll have to wait and see. I think win or lose, if Oshkosh keeps this game close, that's going to change the whole tenure of this whole season, because everyone's thinking that North Central is going to beat everybody by 35, 40 something points. But if this is a close game, then all of a sudden it's like, maybe we have another 2023 coming up. We'll see.
North Central has not lost a regular season game, I don't believe, since 2019, and Mount Union has not lost one since 2016, I don't believe, against John Carroll back then. I think that's it for those two teams, which are still the 1 and 2 teams in this country right now. North Central number 1, Mount Union at number 2. Both of them had big games coming up this Saturday in week 2. No games, I don't believe, on Friday, but we have us on Friday coming up with our live show. So those of you that are watching us right now on Flow Sports venue or Flow College, Friday, go over to Twitter or Facebook to watch our live show starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And we'll have guests on to talk about the upcoming games and other things this weekend. So join us for that. Last thoughts, JB, as we hit the 1 hour mark here.
I think it was a good week 1. Obviously had some weird rainouts. We had some games that went different ways than we might have expected, but that's what keeps the season interesting. So, some rivalry trophies were presented, and that made week 1 fun. Now we're going to go into some other big games and kind of keep shedding away here and see what happens.
Week 2 coming up, and so is our live show. We'll see you soon, folks. Have a good rest of the week in the meantime.